ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
Welcome into your Wednesday, July 10th edition. Your drive begins now here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for being a part of today's show. We got a lot to get into. Of course, we got the announcement earlier today that Marshall's going to be facing Georgia, and the opener 2025 going to be set for August 30th. We'll get into a little bit more of that in just a minute. Coming up on the program today, we're going to be joined by Ryan Crisp. He's the Associate Athletics Director for Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, and Fan Engagement. We're going to discuss with him the launch of HerdZone Plus. That's a new streaming service that the Athletic Department is going to offer. It will have exclusive Marshall Athletics content. That's going to include the behind-the-scenes series, Herd Knocks. That's kind of comparable to the NFL's Hard Knocks. That is going to be available starting today. So you can get into that. You can find out more about that with Ryan coming up in the next few minutes. We'll give you kind of price points, what you can expect content-wise. Is this going to be worth my $9.99 a month? Or is it going to be so good that I'm just going to drop down $100, $99.99 for the annual rate? I think a lot of people might just go with the regular $9.99 a month right now price plan, just because kind of get a feel for what this is going to be about. But Ryan's going to join us here in the next few minutes, and he's going to give us kind of an idea of what we expect from this. There's a lot of questions, what this content's going to be, how much of this is stuff that's maybe already out there that's going to be put behind a paywall, or is this going to be content material that isn't necessarily accessible already. It's stuff you've never seen before. It's stuff you've never had access to, and it's going to be part of this service. So Ryan comes in next few minutes to talk about that. We'll also talk to him about Fans First, some events coming up. He'll give us all the breakdown, everything you need to know. So that's coming up here in the next few minutes. But the big story's got to be the Marshall game against Georgia. So that game is scheduled for August 30th, 2025. It's going to be in Athens. The Herd will face the Bulldogs for only the second time ever between these two programs. The first time was September 18th, 2004. Marshall lost to Georgia. It was very close. It was a 13-3 game. So this is the Jim Donnan Bowl as far as I'm concerned. Of course, Jim Donnan, the former head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd in the 90s, led the Thundering Herd to an NCAA 1AA championship. Marshall, under Jim Donnan, competed for 4 1AA championships, won 1, and lost 3. Also, the Herd fell in the 1AA semifinals in 1994. So the Thundering Herd, with a lot of success under Jim Donnan. You know, he only finished, I think, first in conference standings one time. The worst he ever did was tied for 4th in 1990. Other than that, the Herd was either tied for second, or that one season in 1994 when Marshall finished first. Now, he took the job in Georgia. He tied for 4th in his first season, had a 5-6 mark. They were 3-5 in conference. After that, not the Georgia we know now, but they were competitive. He finished tied for second in 1997. They had a 10-2 mark. And they had some solid football teams. 1998, 1999, and 2000. They were solid, 9-3, 8-4, and 8-4 in those seasons. And finished no higher than second. And Jim Donnan, as the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, won all 4 of the bowl games that his team participated in. They won the Outback twice, won the Peach, and won the Ohio Bowl. So they've won under Jim Donnan. He finished with a record of 40-19 as the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, I get to call this the Jim Donnan Bowl. Now, Marshall put the release out. Christian Spears talked about how this emphasizes the program's willingness to compete with top teams. I mean, this is a money game. Obviously, you're getting a good payday for this. You're getting a good payday to help fund the athletic department. That's always a plus. You're playing a prominent program. That's always a plus. and you're trying to put yourself out there, compete for respect. You have aspirations for respect. How do you get that respect? Well, you go play teams like Notre Dame. You play teams like Georgia. If you can beat a top team, then people start looking at your program a little bit differently. And, of course, he's talked about before. He mentioned creating experiences that were memorable. Going to Notre Dame, for a lot of people, that was memorable. It doesn't dampen that win after everyone was celebrating the Herd's success that Marshall would lose to Bowling Green. It doesn't dampen that. Not now. At the time, the sky had fell. But what if Marshall would go into Athens, Georgia, and beat Georgia in front of a sellout crowd? And then Marshall could continue to have a good season. What would that mean for the Thundering Herd? I mean, what does this game mean for Marshall's program? And how important is this game in Marshall's quest for national recognition? And are we going to see more of this philosophy in the scheduling strategy? I mean, is there a higher ambition here, and we're starting to see it fall into place? I mean, the Herd playing this season Virginia Tech and Ohio State, so that's two Power 5 opponents right there. In 2025, the Herd has Georgia. In 2026, Penn State. And, of course, in 2028, the Herd has Wisconsin. So these are some power programs. I mean, these are good power programs. Virginia Tech, Ohio State, Georgia, Penn State, Wisconsin. These are higher-level Power 5, now Power 4 programs. So there's some ambition here. And if Marshall starts playing in these games and Marshall is competitive, maybe even wins a game here or there. I mean, could you imagine Marshall knocking off Wisconsin? What if Marshall could knock off Penn State? Or if Marshall could get the best of Georgia? Or even if Marshall maybe loses to Ohio State but plays them well and maybe can knock off Virginia Tech, how does that elevate the national profile for Marshall? Marshall could become an alternative for recruits looking to play somewhere. And I know NIL is going to have a influence on a lot of people's decisions. But if you elevate the program, you elevate the profile, Marshall becomes a more attractive sports property, more attractive as far as we don't know what conference realignment is going to look like here in the next 5, 10, 15 years. I'm not saying Marshall's going to be the next candidate to get into the ACC, but you never know. That's the aspirations we are looking at here. So how does this all play into that? So we'll get your text in this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. But we're going to turn our attention to HerdZone Plus. Ryan Crisp is going to join us. Again, the Associate Athletics Director for Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, and Fan Engagement. We'll talk to him when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
You need reliable appliances to help you conquer the day. And Menards carries the largest in-stock selection, starting at low prices and ready to take home today. Check out our top appliance brands including KitchenAid, Maytag, Whirlpool, Amana, and Criterion. Upgrade today and save big money on new appliances right now at Menards. Number 1 in customer satisfaction among home improvement retailers according to J.D. Power. For more information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Save big money at Menards.
Giovanni's Pizza. Fresh, hot, and tasty. Have it delivered right to your door. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Let the good times roll. Downtown Huntington's premier weekly music event is back. It's Mount West Ninth Street Live, presented by New Trail, Garage Beer, Big Truck, The Beast, La Marca Prosecco, and Matua Sauvignon Blanc. This Friday at City Heat. Music starts at 7 on the Marshall OBGYN stage. The Little Caesars Kid Zone is back, and Go-Mart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sit Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for Friday, August 2nd, when 9th Street is Dead, featuring John Ingram's Dead Center and the music of the Grateful Dead. The Thundering Herd Rally is Friday, August 16th. 9th Street Live is driven by Yes Chevy, Yes Ford every Friday night through Labor Day. 9th Street in Huntington between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Sponsored by Delta Hotels, Marshall OBGYN, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, City of Huntington, Marshall University, Impact Media, Xfinity, and Kindred Communications.
With Progressive's Home Quote Explorer, you can check if you're paying too much for home insurance, because giving you options is the right thing to do.
Oh yeah, like bringing brownies to a dinner party. But I never bring brownies with nuts, because not everyone likes nuts, so they wouldn't eat those brownies. And even people who do like nuts will still eat brownies without them. Why? Because they're brownies.
But still, it's the right thing to do. So compare rates with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
We're going to open up our text line in just a few minutes, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. If you've got questions for our next guest, that is, my friends, the way to get a hold of Ryan Crisp, who's now joining us. He is the Associate Athletics Director for Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, and Fan Engagement at Marshall University. He now joins us. Big day for the Thundering Herd today. Ryan, I thought we were just going to talk about HerdZone Plus. You didn't tell me yesterday when we talked that you're going to drop this Georgia thing on us as well. So big day for the Herd.
Big day for the Herd, yeah. No, obviously the HerdZone Plus was a key point of today in getting that out, but timing worked out where we were able to get out the Georgia announcement, and so obviously a big non-conference game against one of the best programs and teams in college football, and next year we'll get to go down to Athens and see if we can shock the world again.
Looking forward to it, and of course you'll have more details on how fans can get tickets as we get closer to the game, but I would probably advise everyone now, make sure your Big Green membership is current. That'd probably be the best advice right now. That
will be the number one priority for sure. Also, season ticket holders, all that good stuff. I haven't personally seen the contract yet to know what the ticket number looks like or anything like that. But depending on what that looks like, we'll definitely be transparent about that and let everyone know the process and how you can have your best chance to secure tickets to that game.
So Ryan's with us today because it launched. Everyone now can subscribe to HerdZone Plus. You teased us a few days ago. You put out the video about Herd Knocks, which is one of the best plays on words I've had in a while concerning any program. Like, for example, Hard Knocks. I mean, Monarchs Knocks doesn't really fit, or Hokies Knocks, or Buckeye Knocks. Now, none of that stuff works, but Herd Knocks works, and that's some of the content that we can see on this service. Let's start with what HerdZone Plus isn't.
Well, HerdZone Plus is a video content, all access, behind the scenes look at our programs. The one that went out today is obviously a feature behind the football program itself. All in, there will be 3 to 4 different series that get put out throughout the year. They all have a unique look and unique content that is not accessible anywhere else other than through this HerdZone Plus platform. Anyone, I know subscribers have been rolling in today, which is great to see. And anyone that's watched the first episode on, feedback on social media or even myself watching it, the story that's told in the first episode and learning more about the conditioning program and the player development side that happens is truly amazing, and what our strength staff, what they sacrifice, and how they impact our student athletes is truly incredible. So well worth your time, well worth your investment, just to feel connected more to the program and also learn some of that behind-the-scenes stuff that you would never get the opportunity to see elsewhere.
So you stress it's a lot of video content. What should the expectation be? What is going to be on the service and what's not going to be on the service, to maybe clarify what that expectation for subscribers should be?
Yeah, nothing that you've seen on our social platforms in years past is going to change. We're still going to put out those hype videos. We're still going to put out the game recaps, the series recaps for certain sports, all that kind of stuff. None of that's going to change. That all is still going to be there. What HerdZone Plus is going to be able to do is in the Herd Knocks series specifically, there will be 6 to 7 episodes throughout the year that are a true behind-the-scenes look at the Marshall football program. And the way they'll be broken down, it's very similar to those that have watched Hard Knocks. It's a behind-the-scenes look. It's a sit-down interview with a coach or a player or multiple of those, and you get to learn a little bit about that program from behind-the-scenes standpoint. Another series is called In the Zone with Marshall Athletics, and that is the same type of deal with Hard Knocks in terms of behind the scenes, but it's with our other athletic programs. And once again, there'll be probably 7 to 10 pieces of content through that series. A couple other ones we're doing. One is going to be a student-athlete-led podcast where they come in and they create a podcast, and they're talking about not only life at Marshall, life as a Division I athlete, but just life in general, the new age of college athletics and how that's affecting them, and the advantages and the disadvantages of NIL and all that kind of stuff. We'll go into that. And then Coach's Corner is the last one where it's not going to be moderated. It's not going to have staged question and answers. It's going to be 2 coaches sitting down, sipping on some coffee, and really talking about life and talking about things they're currently talking to each other about learning how to deal with certain aspects of the team. Or, hey, I've never had this situation before. What have you had this before? What have you done? Some really in-depth things. And our athletics program in general has made a commitment to open up to our internal creative staff to help create these services and these platforms. And we think not only can we generate revenue from the actual subscription services, but we believe that it'll help connect our fans on a totally different level and maybe even expose us to some new fans and some new donors.
So this isn't going to be a service in which you're going to take content that you already create, like stories, like information you can get on HerdZone now, or programming such as weekly coaches shows. Doesn't matter the coach, doesn't matter the platform. This kind of content continues. This is going to be new stuff that you just couldn't normally do depending on the platform, that you just normally couldn't do. Like, as you mentioned, 2 coaches sitting down, maybe having coffee and talking about what it's like to coach their programs. You could have, for example, Ari Agnes and Charles Huff sitting down and having coffee talking about their program. This is going to be stuff that you don't get and you won't get anywhere else. So if I'm a fan of the Coaches Show on Thursday nights, I can still go down to wherever the Coaches Show is, take part of that. Herd fans are still going to get their access. This is just going to augment that now.
That's correct. Yep. No, just all brand new content that we've never offered before, and really something that for our level in the Group of 5 in the Sun Belt is really cutting edge. And we've had many of our different colleague programs reach out. Even the first tweet we put out a few days ago. The amount of visiting or the amount of other athletic departments that were tagged from that tweet by their fans saying, hey, I wish we had this. Hey, I want this. Hey, this is cool, was really cool to see. And so, in a way, kind of breaking down a barrier for our level to provide this kind of content for our fans and for us to make the commitment internally to make this a priority from a staffing standpoint is something special.
How much content can Herd fans expect to see in the first few weeks and first few months?
Yeah, I think, all in throughout the year, our goal is to have 20 to 25, maybe 30 different pieces of content. This first Herd Knocks episode will live by itself probably for a week or two. And in the next couple of weeks, the first Student Athlete podcast and the first Coaches Corner will come out. And then probably the first week of August, maybe the last week of July, the second episode of Herd Knocks will come out. So, stuff will be rolling in there pretty good, early on here. And then, like I said, throughout the entire year, depending on how things go, we're hopeful to get 25 to 30. And that's the minimal goal. We'll push it north of that if our fans are enjoying it, enjoying the content, and the subscribers are coming.
Any way you can tease what we can expect as far as the first podcast and the Coaches Corner?
The first Coaches Corner will be with our two soccer coaches, Coach Grassi and Coach Rafa, and they will be talking about, obviously Rafa's progression from being under Coach Grassi to now leading his own program and how they're working together and their philosophies and their styles of play and what they're looking to do. Our men's soccer program is obviously the best soccer program in the country, and our women's soccer team has aspirations to be at that level. And so they'll just go back and forth on talking about how the program was built and how their connection is going to take women's soccer to the next level. And the Student Athlete podcast, Olivia Fogo from the volleyball team is leading that charge. I believe she's going to be sitting down with Meredith Mayer for the first one from the women's basketball program, and they'll be chatting up a lot about life, a lot about their experiences over the last 12 months. As I mentioned earlier, there's obviously a lot of change in college athletics, and so how their experience has changed. Meredith went from a new basketball coach to, early on in the season, they were hanging around 500. All of a sudden, they wheeled off all those wins in a row and lost one game at home and won the conference tournament, won the conference regular season, and made the NCAA tournament. So, just talking about Meredith's experiences over the last 12 months, once again, just content that, you won't be able to get anywhere else.
Ryan Crisp is with us, the Associate Athletics Director for Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, and Fan Engagement. We're talking about the newly launched HerdZone Plus, and one of the other pieces of content I'm curious about is the Vault, and that's, of course, classic archive material, things that we could possibly talk about until we're blue in the face as far as great moments in Herd athletics. When can we expect to see a little bit more of that type of content?
Yeah, by going through this process, we learned a lot of capabilities that we're able to have. And so we, have a plan to upload a lot of our older content and some of our greatest moments up to this platform where fans will be able to watch that or go back and remember those moments. And so just look for that to be developed over the next little bit. It'll obviously take some time to get everything uploaded and get all that stuff in there. But, it is going to be a great area, a great platform to go back and look at those highlights and those memories and see everything from the past.
Ryan Crisp is with us. We're talking about HerdZone Plus. I got a question from the text line. Curious why the branding HerdZone Plus, why not Herd Vision Plus or some of the other branding that's out there to maybe describe a little bit better what this content's all about. Why'd you go with HerdZone Plus?
Yeah, HerdZone Plus was something that we just felt like was right with our website. It is hosted through our Sidearm Sports website, and so it just makes sense with HerdZone.com to have it HerdZone Plus. Herd Vision Plus isn't a terrible thing, but Herd Vision is our broadcast portion of it, a little different than creative media side that we have now. And so we went with the HerdZone Plus just from the way it sounds and the way we can brand it with our website.
Subscription options are monthly, $9.99, or there's an annual subscription for $99.99. You alluded to it earlier, but with this revenue coming in, fans are going to be curious, where does this money go? How does the subscription fee benefit the athletic department?
Yeah, we get that subscription fee, a percentage of it back to us. That money will go to the athletic department, and we'll look to continue to develop our creative content, our digital media, and continue to move in a direction that we need to go in 2024, and how fans are looking to receive their information, how they're looking to gain access to our programs is a lot through the digital side. So we'll utilize these funds. They'll come back. They'll support the athletic department. They'll support the athletes, and we'll continue to build our program internally to make sure we can support our student athletes at the highest level, but also give our fans, everything they've been asking for. Every comment or suggestion that comes in or is on social media, we see a lot of those. And unfortunately, some of them just aren't obtainable from a financial standpoint or from a staffing standpoint or whatever it may be. But it doesn't mean that it goes unnoticed or unread. We put all those in the idea bank and in the memory bank, and we attack them and see if we can pull it off. And this is one that has been mentioned multiple times by fans, and judging by the reaction on social media today, it's one that a lot of people are happy to see has come to fruition. And so we'll continue to, utilize these funds and continue to find ways to generate revenue for us to compete at the highest level and make sure our fans get the information and the access that they deserve.
Ryan Crisp is with us, the Associate Athletics Director for Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, and Fan Engagement. A couple more questions about this before we move on to Fans First. First of all, how do I access this? You mentioned in the release it's on major streaming platforms via the HerdZone app and web browser. I'm going to presume that you can cast from your app, you can cast from your web browser. If there is any plans to expand that to native apps on tablets, phones, of course, you can, I'm sure, access it with the HerdZone app. But what are the platforms you're looking at right now to expand to? And I'm going to presume, again, you say, for example, AirPlay, if I have it on my laptop, I can shoot it over to my TV.
It'll be definitely through the, obviously, HerdZone.com, HerdZone app, all that good stuff. For now, we're going to keep it there and see where it goes from there. But the platform through HerdZone.com/watch or our app is very user-friendly right now. And so I think we can make it work through those two platforms, and then as we grow and as we receive feedback, we'll look to do different things. But for now, definitely utilize HerdZone.com, whether that's from your web browser or from your app store.
Again, it's $9.99 a month, annual of $99.99 for this service. And I'm sure a lot of people have already taken advantage of it to see that first episode of Herd Knocks. It sounds like it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see what happens with all the content that's coming out. But there are other things going on, Ryan, and we got to hit what's happening with Fans First. We're getting close to the start of athletic season again. I mean, for you, it never stops. But for games actually being played, and you've got several initiatives coming up to serve the fans. You like to call it Fans First. So what can we expect coming down the line?
Yeah, we got one big one next week in terms of the NCAA game launch party in the Henderson Center. That's next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. More information will come out in the coming days. But basically, fans will be able to come. Our football team will be there. They'll be signing autographs on. We have 250 limited edition posters that will be given out. We also have 100 custom game covers that are Marshall themed that fans will be able to grab. So limited edition poster, limited edition game cover that people will be able to get at the event. Also have the opportunity to play against the player on the Henderson Center court. So we're bringing in a bunch of TVs, and you'll have a chance to play against play the NCAA football game against the player. And then for the main event of the night, two football players are going to play against each other. So a lot of new athletes on our teams, and I think this is a great opportunity, your first opportunity really to come out to a public event and meet them and get their autograph and get to know them a little bit. So next Tuesday, the 16th, in the Henderson Center, 7 p.m. Is kind of the first main event we have. And then Fans First Day, we had our first one last year. Fans First Day, where all of our fall sports come to the football field and hang out, sign autographs, play games, all the fun stuff, is August 3rd this year. That's a Saturday, August 3rd at 5:30. So that's going to be your next opportunity to meet the football team, your first opportunity to meet some of these other athletes that are on the squads this year and get to know them and get your posters and to get everything that you need. So it's getting close. I always feel like that fan day, the fans' first day, is kind of the first, like, oh, here we go, it's coming, here it is, it's August, so it's go time. And so it's almost here. It's exciting. We're less than a month away, and so we're ready to roll.
You got your pre-order ready for the game? Get your dynasty ready to go?
I think so. I am going to choose. I know it's a big thing on social media right now. I am choosing Marshall to build my dynasty, by the way, if that was ever a question.
I'm disappointed in YouTuber Bordeaux and him not choosing the Thundering Herd. I'm disappointed in him.
You know, I was a little concerned he was playing us a little too much to pick us. So unfortunately, we did lose that battle. But I did see quite a few others that have picked Marshall for their first dynasty. So hopefully they'll turn us into a national champion shortly.
My guest, Ryan Crisp, soon to be the national champion at NCAA Football 25, the Associate Athletic Director for Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, and Fan Engagement. Before I let you go, anything else maybe coming up that we didn't hit that you want to go over?
You know, I think the next step is just stay tuned to social media, release all the fall sports schedules and all that kind of stuff. And so Fans First Games, which are the free admission and the giveaway, are on there, and we'll promote those as we get closer to them. But it's go time, and I ask Herd fans to support us at a high level and do everything you can, not only from your dollars or your time, but also just from a social media standpoint and sharing our message, sharing our word. The most powerful form of marketing is word of mouth, and so everything that fans can do to help spread the word and tell everyone they know about how great Marshall is and how great Marshall Athletics is and how much fun our different events or our games are does amazing things for us. So one click of a button can lead to a lot of things for us, and thanks to all the Herd fans for the support, and here we go for the 24-25 season.
Brian Crisp, Associate Athletic Director, Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, Fan Engagement, joining us. Congratulations on HerdZone Plus. Can't wait to see what else you've got in store for us, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good, Paul. Appreciate it.
That's Ryan Crisp, everyone. I know a lot of people are excited about HerdZone Plus, and again, the subscription options are going to be $9.99 monthly or $99.99 annually. Marshall will get a piece of that back. Of course, you got to pay for this service. Marshall will get its part back, and this is going to help fund a lot of things in the athletic department, including making sure that you're making the investment into the services you need to continue to generate this content, not only for the service, but for other parts of the university. All right, quick timeout. We come back. We'll get your text in. I think we've answered some of your questions already. We had some texters writing earlier, and I think we got most of your questions, including subscription price and where's the revenue going. I think we got all of that. But if we didn't, text line's open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Guess what, people? Wendy's has new saucy nugs. You heard me. Wendy's nugs now come in 7 saucy flavors. Buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, spicy ghost pepper. You can literally hear your taste buds after every bite. I'm serious. Listen to mine. Okay, that's just me playing with sound effects. For a whole new way to nug, gotta be Wendy's.
Gotta be fresh.
Open till midnight or later.
At participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location.
Calling all brave souls, it's Go-Mart's summer of spooky savings. Now through July 31st, join the hunt for bonus reward points. Purchase specially marked items and earn points and unlock tokens for the most haunted spots in West Virginia. From Lake Shawnee to the Trans-Allegheny Asylum, unleash the spirits and collect all 7 tokens to earn 5,000 bonus reward points. Plus, stop in for a scare on Tuesdays and triple your bonus points with each purchase. To join the hunt, download the Go-Mart app today.
Our Kindred Communications family of stations reminds you of the need for blood donations to the Red Cross. Blood is always needed. It may save your life or the life of a loved one. This reminder is brought to you in part by
Marshall Orthopedics, the Tri-State's leader for orthopedic care. MarshallHealth.org/orthopedics. Mount West Community and Technical College. Go far, close to home with Mount West Community and Technical College in Huntington. Online at mctc.edu. Lulu's, the Tri-State's premier smoke shop.
Hey you, I knew I'd find you back in the same aisle. What are you looking for today? More fiber, more laxatives, more of the same ways to manage your constipation? Look, if your constipation with belly pain keeps coming back, you may have irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. Ask your doctor how Linzess can help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel will help you start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, "How's your French going?" you can say,
Babbel facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue.
Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Time to get your text in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. For today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Let's go to the text line. Texter says, "Hey, Paul, I'm very excited about the HerdZone Plus. Great idea for Marshall. Go Herd." Yeah, and I think it's reasonable if you're really a diehard Herd fan and you want to get some of that behind-the-scenes access that you can't get anywhere else. And again, this is stuff that's not going to be available anywhere else. It's not content that's being repurposed that they put up on their YouTube channel or if they post on HerdZone. They're going to create original content for this, and it's $9.99. Or if you want to get the year subscription, save a couple bucks, $99.99. And they've got some plans in the works. And if a lot of people take to this, I'm sure they'll have a lot more coming down the line. But yeah, there's interesting things that they're talking about. The podcasts are going to be interesting, of course. You know, you can have some memorable moments, archive of that material. The coaches' corner, that's going to be something to really be interested in. You got the two soccer coaches talking to each other. I would like to see really that crossover between, hey, maybe Coach Jackson and Coach Huff will sit down and go have a coffee and talk about their challenges of being head coaches. All of that's really cool ideas, and I think that they're gonna find a lot of people who are gonna at least initially take the plunge and hit that $9.99 subscription point. I don't know too many people that are going to jump in just yet with $100. I might be wrong, but I think there's going to be a wait and see attitude. Hey, it's $9.99 a month. You know, I spend that now on Netflix or something like that. You know, I can maybe pop this in and definitely follow along with the Thundering Herd. Texter wants to know, we're talking about Ohio State Texter wants to know, Paul, Marshall and Bob Pruitt outplayed Ohio State except for a 50-plus yard last-second kick. And later, we hire their defensive coordinator to be the Marshall head coach. Who made that hire? Well, we're talking about Mark Snyder. And so Mark Snyder was hired. At that point, you had an interim president and Michael J. Farrell. We got to go back a ways. So this was 2005. Michael J. Farrell was the interim president, and Bob Markham was the athletic director. And, of course, Mark, with his connection to Marshall, you have somebody who played with Marshall, who has a connection to Marshall, coming back. Also, there was that connection with Ironton, Marshall being an Ironton guy. He was also at Youngstown State. Youngstown won 3 1AA national championships. Played Marshall a lot, so Snyder saw Marshall a lot. You have that connection there. So there were a lot of ties, and this was a job that he wanted. And he came back, and a lot of people at the time thought, hey, this was a pretty good hire. Now, in hindsight, Mark had a rough go of it. It really didn't go the way you wanted it for him. There were a lot of missteps. This is his first head coaching job. Good coordinator. Maybe wasn't ready to be the head coach. I mean, that's in the past now, but that was the administration at the time. It was Michael J. Farrell and it was Bob Markham. Those were the primaries, along with others, made that hire. So I know that was a disappointing hire, and I can go back to years and years where a lot of Herd fans just did not like Mark Snyder because Marshall was coming off a run with Bob Pruitt where Marshall was successful. Marshall was winning bowl games. Marshall was winning conference championships. Of course, Bob comes in with a lot of Jim Donnan's players, and he brings in Randy Moss, and you're able to win a championship in 1996 before you make that transition to then Division 1A from 1AA. Marshall following that up with Doc Holliday and then now Charles Huff. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like this season because this is year 4 for Coach Huff. He's got a lot, I'm sure, to prove. You've heard his comments. He's got a lot to try to make happen, and you want to make sure that you're putting this program forward moving. What would be the line you want to see Marshall cross? Conference championship, obviously, that's always going to be good. Division championship. I think winning season is sort of the standard now. You want winning season, conference championship, bowl game. I'm sure there are some metrics in your head right now that's going to be the line that you have to see Coach Huff cross. But going back to those days where Marshall was coming off a tremendous run with Bob Pruitt, and then you hope that a guy like Mark Snyder can come in and do something with the program, and instead, wasn't a good run for the Thundering Herd. Of course, making that jump into Conference USA as well, and this was a different Conference USA. It's a much better league that Marshall is getting into than the one that Marshall left. Let's get our final break. We got a lot to get into, and we'll keep the text line open for you this hour. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Our final segment is coming up on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Skillet. And Seether. Live in Huntington. Cause there's a psycho in my head. Live at Marshall Health Network Arena, Friday, September 27th. Skillet and Seether together. Get tickets this Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com.
Giovanni's has great Italian dishes. Spaghetti with meat sauce, lasagna, ravioli, manicotti, all dinners served with hot garlic bread or Italian rolls. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Let the good times roll. Downtown Huntington's premier weekly music event is back. It's Mount West Ninth Street Live, presented by New Trail, Garage Beer, Big Truck, The Beast, La Marca Prosecco, and Matua Sauvignon Blanc. This Friday at City Heat. Music starts at 7 on the Marshall OBGYN stage. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Gomart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sit Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for Friday, August 2nd, when 9th Street is Dead, featuring John Ingram's Dead Center and the music of the Grateful Dead. The Thundering Herd Rally is Friday, August 16th. 9th Street Live is driven by Yes Chevy, Yes Ford every Friday night through Labor Day. 9th Street in Huntington between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Sponsored by Delta Hotels, Marshall OBGYN, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, City of Huntington, Marshall University, Impact Media, Xfinity, and Kindred Communications.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel will help you start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, "How's your French going?" you can say,
Babbel facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue.
Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think you would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Wednesday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann, with our text line open at 304-396-TALK. That is 304-396-8255. Texter writes in, says, Paul, about the Georgia game. Not only will it be a big payday, it will also be upset city. All right, that's the way to think. Already thinking about an upset in 2025. The Herd going down to Athens, Georgia, and getting that victory over the Bulldogs in the inaugural, it'd be the second ever playing of the Jim Donnan Bowl. Again, Jim Donnan, the former head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd and former head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, had that 64-21 mark with Marshall, that 40-19 mark with Georgia. I don't know if anyone's really going to go with that idea. Unofficially for me, it's the Jim Donnan Bowl. But yeah, that's going to be a good payday for the Thundering Herd. You need that if you're going to try to move this athletic department forward, especially with the restructuring, the demand for NIL opportunities, the way that the NCAA and the power conferences are trying to put together some sort of agreement to settle the antitrust cases that are, honestly, good to get those out of the way and pay as little money as you possibly can. And we could be talking about here in the next few days schedule changes. We could talk about roster limitations, more scholarship opportunities, all of this. And so you're going to have to find these opportunities the best place you can. Texter writes in and says, Paul, when Coach Pruitt left, it was obvious that Bob was trying to set up Larry Keck as his successor. When that did not happen, did that sour folks right off the bat on Coach Snyder? I think there were a lot of people that were excited for Coach Snyder, and you're going to get that with any coach. There's always going to be one guy that one group favors over another. I think you can say that honestly. But Snyder comes in, you want to give him an opportunity, and then remember that Kansas State game? I bet you do. You remember that? If you don't, here's a situation where Marshall could have done something really special against Kansas State. And unfortunately, Marshall just blows it. Just blows it. He said in that confusion, because again, you're trying to win the game, right? And you make the wrong call. And so here's what you do. You make the play that wins you the game. Get the points and go home. But instead, Snyder said about that, there was some confusion on the play. I remember him saying that it was a rookie head coach mistake. He said, if I ever do it again, I'll call a timeout and kick it on third down. Okay. Well, I think that put this program on the wrong footing with him and the fans. And so a lot of disappointment, and it just didn't get better. That's the thing. If Marshall would have won and consistently won, it'd have been all right. I think Herd fans would have come to embrace Mark Snyder a lot more than they did. I mean, Mark is a good coach. He was a rookie head coach. There were a lot of mistakes made. And, of course, you're following Bob Pruitt. That's a hard act to follow for most coaches. I mean, do you want to be the guy that follows Bob Pruitt? Well, there were people that might have wanted that job. It ended up going to Mark Snyder, and he was not the guy that Bob Pruitt was, success-wise. And so, yeah, I think a lot of things soured folks on Snyder. I mean, when Doc was hired, a lot of people were sour on him because of his ties to WVU. I mean, there's always going to be a reason why you're sour on somebody. But with Snyder, I think he could have gotten past some of those initial criticisms, having more success on the football field. If Coach Huff, if he wins the conference championship, I think a lot of people are going to soften up on him. I'm not saying that people are sour on him, but there are people who are critical of him. There are people who are for him. There's always going to be somebody who's for and against you. And I think a lot of fans are, falling into that. Hey, if he does well, everything's going to be good. We have faith in him. And there's a lot of fans who they don't like anybody. It doesn't matter who it is, because again, you got spoiled with Jim Donna and really with Bob Pruitt. Those guys made an impact at Marshall University. I think that's going to do it for this edition of the show. A couple of things to pass along before we call it a day. The Coal Cats fell to the Johnson City Doughboys 9-7. They'll be back in action tonight. Wrap it up that series. 7 o'clock start in Johnson City, Tennessee. Coal Cats, of course, will be back in action right here on the radio on the 16th and 17th. We'll have all those home games right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. If you missed anything today from the show, don't forget you can go back and you can catch it on our podcast. It's completely free. I don't charge you $9.99 a month or $99.99 a year. I don't charge you for that. It's completely free. So check it out. Tell your friends. Pass it along. Let everybody know. You can listen to the show if you missed it live on our podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Paul Swann. And you can do a search on Facebook. Just look for The Drive with Paul Swann. And we've got a Facebook page you can follow as well. For our producer, Ben Anderson, I'm Paul Swann. Special thanks for our guest, Ryan Crisp, for showing up and getting us caught up on what's happening with HerdZone Plus. Ryan, the Associate Athletics Director for Annual Giving, Ticket Sales, and Fan Engagement. We really appreciate him coming on the show. We got pretty good guests coming up tomorrow. I'll leave it for tomorrow. I think you'll enjoy it. Have a great night, everyone.
Retransmitting in Glorious FM on 94.1 W227BS Huntington. This is 930 WRVC Huntington, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting.